Welcome to the deep dive. I'm thrilled you're joining us today.
Absolutely. It is great to be here with you. We have a genuinely fascinating topic lined up.
We really do. But honestly, before we even get into the mechanics of the language we're going to study today,
Sure.
I have a confession.
Oh, what's that?
We've been prepping for this deep dive all morning,
Right.
reviewing these massive stacks of English grammar guides, linguistics wikis, ESL role-play scenarios.
It's been a very long morning of research.
And we haven't taken a single break to eat.
No, we really haven't.
I'm so hungry. I want pizza right now.
Whoa, hold on just a second.
What?
That sounds so aggressive. Use the magic word.
Right, okay. The hunger took over a bit.
I understand the hunger, but if you were speaking to a waiter like that, you might have just ruined their entire afternoon.
I see your point. Okay, fine. I want pizza, please.
It's still a little demanding. I mean, please helps, sure.
Yeah.
But the structure of the sentence is still forcing an obligation. Think about how you would order if we were actually sitting in a nice restaurant trying to be respectful of the staff.
Ah, I see what you're doing. Let me try that again. I would like some pizza, please.
Much better. See? The tone completely shifted.
It really did. And that playful little correction right there brings us perfectly to the core topic of today's deep dive.
Exactly.
We are talking about the English modal auxiliary verb, would.
Yes. Our mission today is all about transforming your English. We want to take you from sounding, well, perhaps a bit robotic or overly direct.
Like my aggressive pizza demand just now.
Precisely. We want to take you from that to sounding natural, polite, and incredibly emotionally expressive.
We're going to master the four main uses of would. And let me tell you, once you see how much heavy lifting this one little word does in the English language,
Yeah.
you're never going to look at it the same way again.
It's a captivating piece of our language infrastructure. But before we get into the practical applications, like how to order food without offending your waiter, I think it's crucial to understand exactly what kind of word would actually is.
Good point.
Because our sources today include some incredibly detailed linguistic data. Specifically, we're looking at excerpts from the Cambridge Grammar of the English Language and a really comprehensive Wikipedia deep dive into English modal auxiliary verbs.
Let's define what a modal auxiliary verb actually is for a moment. Because it is a unique category. To the everyday speaker, would just feels like a normal word.
Right, no different than run or jump.
Exactly. But grammatically, it operates under a completely different set of rules.
It is quite restricted. Modal auxiliary verbs are a very specific subset of verbs that express modality.
Modality?
Yeah, modality is essentially the grammaticalization of concepts like possibility, obligation, permission, and necessity.
So words like can, could, may.
Shall, should, must, will, and of course, our star of the day, would. What makes them so special in English is a concept linguists call defectiveness.
Defectiveness. When I first read that in the Cambridge Grammar excerpt, I thought it meant the words were broken or archaic.
I mean, they aren't broken, but linguistically speaking, it means they lack certain morphological forms that normal, regular verbs possess.
How so?
Well, for instance, they do not have untensed forms. Think of a normal verb like take.
Okay.
You can manipulate it into a participle like taking or taken, or the verb be, which gives us being and been.
Right, that makes sense.
You cannot do that with a modal verb. You cannot say I am wooding or I have wooded.
I am wooding. That sounds completely absurd. It feels heavy and wrong in the mouth.
It's completely ungrammatical. Furthermore, they don't have subject-verb agreement in the third person singular.
Yeah, this is a big stumbling block for people learning English.
Massive. If you use the verb try, you say I try, but then you add the S for the third person. She tries.
Right.
With would, it remains static. It's I would and she would. There is no such thing as she would's.
I was looking at the historical data in the sources, and it struck me how these words evolved. The etymology is fascinating.
It really is.
Where did will and would actually come from? Because they clearly didn't start out as these rigid, defective helper verbs.
No, they trace their lineage back to Old English. Will and would come from the Old English verbs willen and wold.
Willen and wold.
Yes. And back then, willen wasn't just a grammatical marker for the future. It was a full, robust lexical verb that meant to wish or to want.
So originally, it was literally about active desire. When someone used the ancestor of would, they were talking about human yearning.
Precisely. Over centuries of use, these words slowly shed their literal meaning of active desire.
They evolved.
Yes, they underwent a process called grammaticalization. They transformed from independent action verbs into these auxiliary helpers that modify the mood of other verbs.
The sources also mention that during the early modern English period, they even had distinct second-person singular forms, which I find incredible.
Ah, yes. The language was much more heavily inflected back then. If you were talking to someone using thou, which was the singular informal you at the time,
Right.
will became wilt and would became wouldst. You see this constantly in the literature of the era. Shakespeare wrote, "Why, whither, Adam, wouldst thou have me go?"
Wouldst thou? It adds such a theatrical, dramatic flair to the sentence. It almost makes me wish we'd kept it.
It does have a certain ring to it. But returning to modern times, one of the defining traits of a modal verb, like would, is how it interacts with the words around it.
Right. The source material notes that it takes a bare infinitival clause as its complement.
To put that simply for you, it means when you place a verb directly after would, you drop the word to.
Okay.
You do not say, "I would to go to the store." You just strip it down to the bare verb, "I would go." The complement is bare.
It creates a very tight, inseparable unit of meaning between the modal and the action. So understanding this framework that would is a highly specialized, slightly defective, historically rich tool, we can start to see how it shapes our social interactions.
And that brings us to the first major way we use this tool.
Yes. Section 1. What our ESL role-play sources refer to as the soft pillow analogy.
The soft pillow is a brilliant metaphor for understanding the pragmatics of politeness in English.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does it work?
When you are in social interactions, particularly in formal situations or when speaking to strangers, like ordering at a restaurant or asking for help in a store.
Situations where you need something from someone else.
Yes, using direct imperative language can feel abrasive. In linguistics, we talk about face-threatening acts.
Face-threatening acts. That sounds intense, like a physical altercation.
It does sound dramatic, but it simply refers to any communication that threatens another person's social standing, autonomy, or feeling of being respected, their social face.
Ah, I see.
Telling someone what to do directly is a face-threatening act. Would acts as a linguistic cushion against this.
The soft pillow.
Exactly. It softens the impact of a direct demand, protecting the relationship and mutual respect between the speaker and the listener.
I really need to internalize this, considering how aggressively I demanded pizza at the start of our deep dive.
It might help.
Looking at the ESL restaurant role-play scenarios in our stack, there is a massive emphasis on avoiding direct statements of desire.
Yes, saying "I want" in English, when directed at a service worker, essentially translates emotionally to "give me."
It strips away all social pleasantries. It's just a raw demand.
And that is where the conditional mood comes into play as a vital social lubricant. When you say "I would like" instead of "I want," you are employing the conditional mood.
Okay.
This creates a psychological and polite distance between your desire and the other person's obligation.
So it frames the desire not as a selfish, inflexible demand, but as a polite preference.
Dependent on the circumstances.
Yeah.
You are essentially saying, under these pleasant conditions we find ourselves in, if it is at all possible and not an inconvenience to you, my preference is this.
It gives the listener the illusion of a choice.
Precisely. Which preserves their autonomy and prevents the interaction from feeling like a dictatorship.
Let's actually demonstrate this for you, the listener, so you can hear the emotional difference. Let's do a little role play based on the restaurant worksheets from our sources.
All right.
I'm going to act out two very different characters. Let's start with someone who doesn't use the soft pillow at all. The bossy boss.
Okay, I will play the waiter. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Twinkle Star Restaurant.
I want a table for 4.
Right this way. Here's the menu. Are you ready to order?
I want chips. And I want sparkling water.
Ouch.
Right.
Analyzing that from the perspective of the waiter, it feels incredibly demeaning. There is no mutual respect.
The customer's treating the staff member like an automated vending machine rather than a human being. It felt terrible to even deliver those lines.
The energy in the room completely dropped.
It really did. Now let's reset the scene. I'm going to play a polite professional, utilizing our star word. Let's observe how the social dynamics change.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Twinkle Star Restaurant.
Hi there. I would like a table for 4, please.
Certainly, right this way. Here's the menu. Are you ready to order?
Yes, I think so. I'd like fish and chips, please.
Would you like anything to drink?
Yes, I'd like some sparkling water, please.
The contrast is night and day.
It really is. The interaction becomes smooth, respectful, and collaborative.
It feels like a pleasant transaction between equals. And notice a very specific phonetic choice you made there.
Oh, which part?
Use the contraction "I'd like" for your food and drink orders.
Ah, yes. The sources specifically point out that in natural, semi-formal, or casual situations, I'd like is the perfect native-sounding contraction for I would like.
It keeps the politeness but removes the stiffness.
Exactly. It ties back to the grammatical properties we discussed earlier. Modals in English have both weak and strong pronunciations.
Right. If you are stressing the word, you use the strong form, would. But in rapid, natural, connected speech, it reduces to a weak form, or it assimilates entirely into the preceding pronoun, leaving just a D sound.
I'd, you'd, they'd.
Yes, but Dan's real English source provides a fantastic warning here for you.
Oh, this is a crucial point for the listener.
You have to be incredibly careful not to confuse the I'd of would with the I'd of had.
Because they sound identical in spoken English.
They do. Context and the following verb are your only clues. I'd go utilizes the bare infinitive go, meaning it is I would go.
Right.
But if you hear a past participle like I'd gone, that is the contraction for I had gone, which is the past perfect tense. It's a subtle but vital distinction for comprehension.
To add a layer of nuance to this soft pillow concept, I want to bring in a really specific high-level detail from the italki forum discussion included in our sources.
Okay, let's hear it.
A language learner asked a brilliant question about the difference between I would like to and I would want to.
Ah, yes, that's a great question.
On paper, since like and want can be synonyms, they seem almost interchangeable.
They do appear synonymous, but the native speakers in the forum highlighted a massive pragmatic difference in how they are deployed in actual conversation.
Native speakers rarely, if ever, say, I would want to, when expressing their own concrete, immediate desires or plans.
Never. If you are ordering food, booking a ticket, or stating a preference for the evening, I would like to, is the absolute gold standard.
One of the forum users, a teacher named Christy, pointed out that I would want to is heavily restricted to giving someone else advice or analyzing a situation from the outside.
For example, you would want to take the express train to get there on time. It functions almost like you should.
Or it's reserved for highly hypothetical, abstract, and often contrary to fact situations.
Another user provided a fascinating nuanced example. They said, I would like to win this race, but he paid me to throw the match. If I were you, I would want to win.
Do you see the psychological division there?
It's very clear. Would like is the active, polite desire happening in the real world right now. Would want is a theoretical, detached state of desiring something in an alternate reality.
Another brilliant example from that same forum was about diet and temptation. The user wrote, I would like to eat that entire chocolate cake right now, but I wouldn't want to because it would make me feel sick afterwards.
That perfectly captures the duality.
It does. Would like is the immediate, visceral craving, the polite way of stating a current urge. Would want is the rational, theoretical assessment of the desire's consequences.
It's an incredibly sophisticated use of language to separate the physical urge from the logical desire.
It really shows how flexible English can be.
And while we are on the topic of variety, it's worth mentioning the other polite alternatives our sources provide for replacing I want.
Right. I would like is your reliable daily tool, but if you need to be exceptionally deferential, perhaps speaking to a high-level executive or asking a massive favor, you can layer your modals.
Layering modals, like saying, could I possibly have, or I was wondering if I could possibly get.
Exactly. I was wondering if I could possibly have a moment of your time.
By stacking wondering, which is past continuous for distance, if for conditional could as a modal of ability and possibly as an adverb of tentative chance, you are building a fortress of politeness around your request.
A fortress of politeness. I love that phrase.
Ah.
But for 99% of daily interactions, the simple soft pillow of I would like is all you need to navigate the world gracefully.
Agreed.
We have spent a good amount of time in the present discussing how would softens our immediate desires and requests. Let's transition from the polite rules of a restaurant or a boardroom to something much more personal and intimate.
I know where we're going with this. Section 2.
Yes, the nostalgia section. This is all about using would to talk about emotional past habits.
This is, from a purely narrative perspective, perhaps my favorite function of would. It adds an incredible emotional texture to storytelling that other verb tenses simply cannot achieve.
Let me set the stage for you, the listener, and share a specific, real childhood memory. When I was a kid, every Sunday, my dad would take me down to the boardwalk for ice cream.
Let's break down the mechanics of why that phrasing feels so evocative. Compare your sentence. Every Sunday, my dad would take me for ice cream with the standard simple past tense version.
Every Sunday, my dad took me for ice cream.
Or simply, we went for ice cream.
We went for ice cream feels incredibly clinical. It just states a cold fact. It's like reading a timeline, a historical ledger, or a police report. It happened, it's over, move on.
It conveys the information, but it strips the emotion. When you utilize would for a past habit, you are engaging what we can call the movie scene effect.
And the movie scene effect.
Yes, it forces the listener's brain to paint a vivid, moving picture. It doesn't just present a completed fact. It projects a repeated, cherished action rolling out over time.
It inherently carries a heavy feeling of nostalgia, a sense of looking back warmly at a rhythm of life that no longer exists.
The source material from Dan's Real English provides a beautifully written little diary entry that showcases this continuous emotional rhythm perfectly.
Oh, let me read that for you. It goes, "When I was a teenager, I used to spend hours reading up in the dusty attic. My grandmother would bring me plates of sliced apples, and we'd talk about the stories. I used to dream about becoming a writer."
That short paragraph is an absolute masterclass in establishing past habits.
It feels warm, lived in, and visually rich.
And importantly, it seamlessly demonstrates the vital grammatical rule we need to discuss regarding nostalgia, the structural relationship between the phrase used to and our modal verb would.
The sources are incredibly strict on this point. You cannot just start a story out of nowhere with would.
You really can't. It causes immediate confusion.
It creates a syntactic crash in the listener's brain. If you walk up to a colleague at the office and without any context simply state, "We would go surfing every weekend," they're going to look at you waiting for the other half of the sentence.
Because without context, would defaults to its conditional function. They'll assume you are setting up a hypothetical scenario. We would go surfing every weekend if we lived closer to the beach, but we don't.
Right. So how do we correctly signal to the listener that we're talking about a real memory and not a hypothetical dream? What's the proper sequence?
You must first establish the temporal background. You build the foundation of memory using the phrase used to.
Used to anchors the listener firmly in the past reality.
Exactly. For example, when I was in my 20s, I used to live in a tiny apartment in London.
Okay, the background is set. The listener knows we are in the past.
Right. And then, once that historical context is clear, you switch to would to describe the specific dynamic repeated actions that occurred within that era.
So, I used to live in London. On rainy days, I would sit by the window and watch the red buses go by. I would drink endless cups of tea.
Perfect. That structural division makes so much sense. Used to builds the physical stage and sets the time period, and would represents the actors moving around on that stage.
It's a perfect division of labor. However, there is a massive structural constraint when using would in the past, and it concerns the difference between action verbs and stative verbs.
Ah, yes. Stative verbs. Let's define those clearly for you.
These are verbs that describe a state of being, a condition, or a possession, rather than a physical dynamic action.
Verbs like be have when meaning possession, know, like seem, believe, live, own, understand. A past state is a situation that remained constant over a period of time.
Our grammar sources are unequivocal on this rule. You can use used to describe past states, but you can never use would for past states.
Never.
Let's illustrate this with some clear examples so you can hear the grammar working. If I'm describing my appearance during my university days, I could say, "I used to have long hair."
Having hair is a state of possession. That is correct.
Yes. But you absolutely cannot say, "In university, I would have long hair." That violates the rules of English syntax.
It sounds so bizarre to a native ear. I would have long hair. It sounds less like a memory and more like you are a time traveler predicting your own past.
It really does. The Test English source gives another excellent pairing to highlight this error.
Correct.
I used to live with my mom when I was a child.
Incorrect. I would live with my mom when I was a child.
Live, in the sense of residing, is a continuous state, not a repeated discrete action. Therefore, it must take used to.
So, dynamic action verbs running, eating, visiting, talking, get the nostalgic movie scene would, but stative verbs are strictly confined to used to.
As a general rule, yes. Though, because English is a wonderfully messy language full of exceptions, there are instances where a verb that is typically stative is used dynamically.
Right. Take the verb have. When it means possession, it is a state, but when it means to consume, it is an action.
So you could say, on Fridays, I would often have dinner with my mom. In that context, have is dynamic.
Exactly. Having dinner is an event with a start and end point. It is an action. The nuance required to navigate used to and would is truly impressive.
And digging into the linguistics of it, the Wikipedia article has a fascinating section regarding used to. It notes that despite functioning similarly to a modal in these past tense narratives, used to fails almost all the syntactic tests for being a true modal auxiliary verb.
Used to is a notorious outlier in English grammar. The Cambridge grammar of the English language actually refuses to classify auxiliary used to as a modal verb. They argue its meaning is entirely aspectual.
Spectual. Let's translate that for our listener.
Aspect in linguistics deals with how an action relates to the flow of time. Is it ongoing? Is it completed? Is it habitual? Used to strictly marks habitual aspect in the past.
It does not express modality.
No, it doesn't deal with permission, possibility, or necessity. Plus, its behavior in modern English has shifted.
People increasingly treat it like a regular lexical verb, utilizing the auxiliary do for questions and negatives,
You'll hear, did you used to play tennis? Or, I didn't used to like olives.
as opposed to treating it like a modal, which would invert without do.
Precisely. The older, highly formal, modal-like construction would be, used you to play tennis, or, I used not to like olives.
Used you to play tennis. Wow. That sounds like dialogue from a Charles Dickens novel. It feels incredibly archaic.
Language is a living, evolving organism. The formal structures of the 19th century fade into the colloquialisms of today.
But regardless of its official categorization, the core narrative rule remains vital for you to master. Set the historical scene with used to, paint the moving emotional pictures with would, and rigorously avoid using would for pure states of being.
Well said.
We're about halfway through our deep dive, and we have covered a significant amount of linguistic ground.
We certainly have. We've discussed present paradigms, face-threatening acts, and the aspectual nature of memory.
To ensure we're anchoring these complex ideas to the real world, I think it's time to check in on some of the core vocabulary that underpins this entire discussion. We're going to do a quick concept tour, which is section 3.
Taking a moment to solidify the terminology is essential. We've been using a few specific words repeatedly to describe the emotional effects of would, and we need to ensure their definitions are crystal clear.
Let's start with a word we just spent an entire segment exploring. We used it to describe the movie scene effect of recalling past habits. The word is nostalgic.
Nostalgic. It's an adjective that describes a very specific, complex human emotion.
How would you explain it simply?
It is a warm, slightly sad, and often beautiful feeling you experience when you think deeply about positive memories from your past. It's the emotional resonance of temporal distance.
So when you remember your dad taking you for ice cream and you use the word would to describe it, you're actively trying to induce a nostalgic feeling in your listener. You want them to feel the warmth of that past era.
Beautifully explained. The next word is the exact opposite of our soft pillow concept. It is the behavior we are trying to avoid. Bossy.
Bossy. Linguistically speaking, a bossy person is someone who relies heavily on unmitigated face-threatening acts.
Right. They issue commands, demands, and imperatives without using modals or conditional structures to soften the blow.
They tell people what to do in a way that disregards the other person's autonomy. The character I played in the restaurant, the one who simply stated, "I want chips," was being bossy.
And it creates social friction and resentment.
Which leads us to the final concept in our tour, which is the ultimate goal of mastering politeness. Appreciate.
Appreciate. This represents the social capital you earn when you successfully use language to protect other people's dignity.
When you use your soft pillow structures,
When you say I would like instead of I want, the people you interact with will appreciate you.
it means they consciously or subconsciously recognize your effort to be respectful. They value your good manners, and they are emotionally thankful for the smooth interaction.
Appreciation is the glue of polite society.
Nostalgic. Bossy.
Yeah.
Appreciate. Keep the emotional weight of those 3 words in mind for you as we move forward. Because we are now going to tackle a social situation that requires maximum appreciation and zero bossiness. Section 4. We are diving into the incredibly tricky waters of giving advice.
Giving advice, even to people you love, is fraught with social landmines. It is inherently a face-threatening act because you're implying that you know better than they do.
Exactly. Imagine this very common social dilemma for you. Your close friend is about to make a terrible mistake. Maybe they're looking at buying a used car that is clearly a mechanical disaster, or they have a severe persistent toothache, but are stubbornly refusing to visit a dentist.
We've all been there.
As a good friend, you need to intervene. You have to give them advice. How do you communicate this without triggering their defenses, making them angry, or sounding like a condescending know-it-all?
If you approach them with direct imperatives, if you just say, you need to go to the doctor or do not buy that broken car, their immediate psychological reaction will likely be defensive.
You are attacking their judgment. It feels bossy. You're positioning yourself above them. You push, and they push back.
So what is the linguistic solution to this psychological problem?
The solution lies in utilizing the subjunctive mood, powered by our star word. The most effective diplomatic phrase in the English language for giving advice is, I would if I were you.
I would study a bit more for that exam if I were you. If I were you, I would get a second opinion from a doctor.
Let's examine the mechanics of why this specific phrasing disarms people so effectively. The grammar worksheet from Colegio San Antonio in our source material explains this structure perfectly.
It states that this formulation is used specifically for hypothetical situations. More accurately, it is a condition that is explicitly contrary to fact.
The indisputable, objective reality of the universe is, I am not you.
And because I am not you, I cannot actually make the decision. By phrasing your advice as, if I were you, you are entirely removing the attack on their autonomy.
You are no longer telling them what to do. You are engaging in a shared hypothetical thought experiment.
You are communicating. I am not trying to control you. Instead, let me use my imagination to transpose my consciousness into your situation.
It is an act of profound linguistic empathy. You are validating the difficulty of their situation by mentally stepping inside of it.
And once you have hypothetically occupied their position, you deploy would to express the action you would choose under those circumstances. I would go to the doctor.
It softens the blow completely. It transforms a command into a shared exploration of options. The ESL worksheet gives some fantastic everyday examples of this in action.
Let's hear one.
Imagine a friend holding frayed electrical cables. If I were you, I wouldn't play with those wires.
That communicates the danger perfectly, but sounds infinitely more supportive than screaming, drop the wires, you idiot.
Or, consider the variation, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Notice how the syntax is flexible. You can invert the clauses. You can deliver the if I were you condition first, or you can lead with the I would consequence.
The empathetic face-saving effect is identical regardless of the order.
Now, looking at this phrase, I have to ask a grammar question that I hear debated constantly by English learners, and the worksheet dedicates a specific section to it.
Okay, what's the debate?
Why is the phrase, if I were you? I is a singular pronoun. In every other context in the past tense, we use was. I was happy, I was tired. Why isn't it if I was you?
That anomaly is the hallmark of the subjunctive mood in English. The subjunctive mood is a specific grammatical category used to explore things that are hypothetical, wished for, or contrary to current reality.
So it breaks the normal rules.
In the English subjunctive, the past tense of the verb to be standardizes to were for all subjects, regardless of whether they are singular or plural. I were, you were, he were, she were, it were, they were.
So we use it for any hypothetical projection. If she were the CEO, things would be different. Or if he were a bit taller, he could reach the shelf.
Precisely. Because the reality is she is not the CEO and he is not taller. It marks the statement as a departure from reality.
Now, the source material correctly notes that informal, everyday spoken English, you will absolutely hear native speakers say, if I was you.
You will! It has become common in casual dialects.
However, from a strict grammatical standpoint, and certainly in any formal writing, professional correspondence, or public speaking, it is considered non-standard.
You should avoid it and maintain the proper subjunctive, if I were you.
That is a phenomenal nugget of knowledge for you. It elevates your English from casual to polished. If I were you, it is empathetic, it is politely deferential, and it is grammatically fascinating.
We are really beginning to see how would reigns as the undisputed king of hypothetical situations.
And that conceptual framework brings us seamlessly into an area where people often get confused. Section 5. Let's look at no robot interaction, where we pit the word will against the word would.
This is a classic heavyweight linguistic matchup. The confusion between these two modals is one of the most common hurdles for non-native speakers.
I have to ask the big question outright, because it is a trap many people fall into. Is would simply a fancy, more formal version of will? Can I just swap them out whenever I am in a business meeting and want to sound a bit more sophisticated.
I must completely dismantle that assumption. Absolutely not.
They're not merely different shades of formality on the same spectrum.
No, they carry entirely different emotional weights. They serve drastically different logical functions in the brain, and they operate in different timelines of reality.
Let's pull that apart. Let's start by defining the emotional and logical weight of will. The English for Everyone source breaks this distinction down with great clarity.
Will is a word of strength. It's definite. It is rigid. When you deploy the word will, you are volunteering for a concrete future action, or you are making a firm, unbending decision at the exact moment of speaking.
If I say, I will cook dinner tonight, or I will meet you at the beach this Sunday, I am anchoring a future event in reality. It sounds certain. It functions as a promise.
It is locked into the schedule. I will do it. You are putting your reputation on the line that the event is going to occur in the real world.
Exactly. Now, contrast that rigidity with the nature of would.
Would does not live in the concrete, factual world of definite future events. Would lives exclusively in the abstract realm of imagination, conditions, and alternate options.
It is inherently soft. It is flexible.
It almost always implies a hidden, unspoken if hovering in the background. I would cook dinner tonight if we actually had any groceries in the fridge.
Ah, that clarifies it perfectly. Will operates in the objective, real world, and would operates in the multiverse of what could be under different circumstances.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. Would is the linguistic key that unlocks the human capacity for hypothetical thinking. It allows us to discuss realities that do not exist.
And there is perhaps no better, more entertaining way to illustrate the imaginative power of would than by looking at a social game that is entirely architected around its grammatical function.
You're talking about the famous Would You Rather game.
We actually have a whole stack of question cards for this game included in our sources, created by an author named Lucy Sanctuary. This game is an exercise in pure hypothetical fun. Listeners, I want you to play along in your head and think about your own answers as I throw a few of these hypothetical scenarios at our expert.
I am ready. Put my hypothetical decision-making to the test.
Okay, let's start with a classic environmental choice. Would you rather live by yourself on a remote, beautiful tropical island, or in a penthouse in the middle of a chaotic, busy metropolis?
Given my profound love for quiet environments and uninterrupted reading, I would undoubtedly rather live on a tropical island. The city would overwhelm me.
A solid, peaceful choice. How about this one concerning bizarre animal companionship? Would you rather have a pet penguin that follows you everywhere, or a pet monkey?
A pet penguin, absolutely. A monkey seems far too chaotic and destructive to have in a house. Plus, the temperature control for a penguin would be a fun engineering challenge.
True, and a penguin would always look very well dressed for dinner. Let's do a few more quick-fire ones from the cards. Would you rather meet a centuries-old vampire or an alien from another galaxy?
An alien. The scientific and philosophical implications of extraterrestrial life are far more intriguing to me than the supernatural mechanics of a vampire.
Excellent logic. Last one. Would you rather possess the superpower of total invisibility or the ability to fly unassisted?
I would definitely rather be able to fly. The perspective shift of seeing the world from above would be incredible. Invisibility feels a bit too sneaky.
So, having played the game, what does this actually mean for our grammar lesson? The crucial takeaway here is that I could not have facilitated the entire interaction using the word will.
It would be impossible. You cannot grammatically or logically ask someone, will you rather have a pet penguin or a pet monkey? It causes a semantic error.
Will demands a foundation in reality. Will you adopt a penguin from the zoo tomorrow? That is a valid real-world question demanding a yes or no answer about a concrete plan.
But asking someone to internally evaluate and choose between two completely imaginary, impossible scenarios requires the soft, non-committal possibility of would.
The sources are packed with these imaginative examples. Would you rather be a flowing river or the rushing wind? Would you rather have tiger stripes on your skin or leopard spots?
It proves the point perfectly that would is the fundamental language of human imagination. Without it, we would be trapped talking only about what is directly in front of us.
Beyond the imaginative applications, it is also linguistically vital to examine how negation operates with these two words, which the Wikipedia article details quite heavily.
The mechanics of making them negative reveal how they function differently at a deep structural level.
When you negate will to create won't, or you negate would to create wouldn't, you are usually applying a concept called internal negation.
Internal negation. Let's break that down so it's easy to grasp.
Please do.
In a sentence with a modal verb, you have two parts. The modal itself, which is the helper, and the complement, which is the main action verb. Internal negation means that the negative particle not is actually negating the main action that follows the modal, rather than negating the modal's modality itself.
Okay, that's a bit dense. Give us an example.
If you say, I won't be surprised if it rains, you are not negating your prediction of the future. The state of willing the future is fully intact. What you are actually saying is, I will be in a state of being unsurprised. The surprise is what is canceled, not the future certainty.
That is a subtle but profound difference. So applying that to our star word, I wouldn't go to that restaurant if I were you, essentially means my hypothetical choice, in your shoes, is the action of not going.
Precisely. The would still holds the hypothetical universe open, but it inserts a negative action into that space.
And just to demonstrate how incredibly deep and varied the rabbit hole of would gets across different dialects, the Wikipedia source mentions something truly incredible about regional variations, specifically within Southern American English.
Have you ever encountered the phenomenon of a double modal?
A double modal. You mean taking two of these highly restricted helper verbs and stacking them right next to each other in the same sentence?
Yes. In standardized English, both British and American, it is considered syntactically impossible. You cannot say, I might must go.
Because it breaks the rule that a modal must be followed by a bare infinitive.
Exactly. But in the dialect of Southern American English, sociolinguistic researchers have documented up to 76 different combinations of double modals used in natural speech. And the most frequently documented ones heavily involve our star word, would. People will naturally say things like, I would do that for you.
I might would. That is absolutely fascinating. Hearing it, you can instantly understand the psychological purpose behind it. It is as if they are layering the hypothetical, uncertain nature of might directly on top of the already soft, conditional nature of would to create this ultimate impenetrable cushion of non-commitment.
That is a remarkably perceptive, pragmatic analysis. Syntactically, it shatters the established rules of standard English grammar. But pragmatically, functionally, it serves a highly distinct social purpose, softening the statement even further, adding layers of politeness, hesitation, or deference.
It is a brilliant example of how much human beings rely on the nuanced shades of these modal verbs to navigate complex social terrain.
It is also illuminating to look beyond English and see how our specific version of these words compares to other languages in the same family. The Wikipedia source offers a great comparative analysis of English modals against other Germanic languages, such as German, Dutch, Danish, and Swedish.
Yes, and the core structural difference that causes English learners so much grief is that the modal verbs in those other Germanic languages are not defective like ours are.
Right, they retain their full infinitive forms and past participles. So in German, the direct cognate for our word will is the verb wollen, and the direct cognate for our word can is the verb können.
Because they are not grammatically defective, a German speaker can easily stack them using infinitives. They can say, Ich will tanzen können, which literally translates word for word into English as, I want can dance.
I want can dance. If you try to directly translate that thought process into English, you end up sounding completely broken, which brings us full circle right back to our original mission for this deep dive, helping you not sound like a robot directly translating grammar.
Exactly. The strict effectiveness of English modals forces us to develop grammatical workarounds. Instead of the impossible I will can do it, we are forced to substitute the modal phrase with I will be able to do it. Instead of I must do it in the past tense, we must pivot to I had to do it.
Our modals are strict, unbending, idiosyncratic little tools, but mastering their specific quirks is the absolute secret to achieving genuine fluency and natural rhythm.
This has been an absolutely massive, comprehensive journey through the word would. We have traveled from Old English desires to modern restaurant manners. Let's do a clear, concise recap of the 4 main practical uses we covered today to make sure you have these tools sharpened and ready in your conversational tool belt.
Number 1. The soft pillow for polite requests and protecting social face. Remember to utilize I would like instead of the demanding I want to cushion your desires, respect the listener's autonomy, and maintain social harmony.
Number 2. The movie scene nostalgia. Using would to paint vivid, emotionally resonant pictures of past habits and cherished repeated actions. But always remember the golden rule. You must set the stage first with used to, and you must never use would to describe stative verbs or permanent conditions.
Number 3. Empathetic advice. Utilizing the subjunctive mood with the phrase, if I were you, I would, to offer guidance and perspective without triggering defenses, sounding like a bossy dictator or attacking your friend's judgment.
And finally, number 4, the soft possibility of imagination. Using would instead of the rigid certainty of will to explore hypothetical scenarios, play games like Would You Rather, and grant yourself the linguistic freedom to live in the multiverse of what could possibly be.
When you step back and synthesize all of these varied uses, you realize that would is so much more than just a minor grammatical particle on a worksheet. It is the fundamental engine of human emotion, diplomatic politeness, and rich storytelling in the English language.
If you can truly internalize and master the nuances of would, you will stop translating vocabulary word for word in your head and start truly speaking the language as it is felt. You transition from being someone who just knows English words to someone who intuitively understands how to navigate the complex social and emotional waters of English culture.
And as we conclude, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder long after this audio stops. The concept of linguistic relativity suggests that the specific grammatical structures of the language we speak actively shape how we perceive reality and interact with the world. Think about this. Does learning to consistently use a linguistic soft pillow like would actually wire our brains to become more empathetic and polite in our daily actions? When you are forced by the rules of English grammar to utilize the subjunctive mood to regularly and literally say, if I were you, does the habit of speaking conditionally fundamentally expand your capacity to view the world through another person's eyes?
That is a beautiful thought to end on. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. To sign off with a perfect real-world example of everything we learned today, I would be so happy if our listeners subscribed today.
See, you used it perfectly.